But it was a really frustrating process that I'll tell you about with it because all that happened in 2023. I just got out a month ago, September 15th, 2025. So I was dealing with it from like I don't know, it was like mid or late 2023 until finally like a month ago that I had to do that whole entire thing.
So Jackson, where did life start for you?
So I was born and raised here in Ottumwa, Iowa. My mom and dad, they were together probably until I was about 10 years old, and then right around like middle school, that's when they ended up doing the divorce. Which, with all that said, like people say like divorces are rough and whatnot, but I honestly thought it was kind of like for the better, like for our family. So I mean, it sucked probably the first few months, but I feel like our family got like closer in a sense. Like I got a better
Okay.
connection with like my mom and dad once that happened. And then went through high school here in Ottumwa, and then upon graduating high school at 17 years old, that's when I ended up shipping off to boot camp for the Marine Corps.
Okay. What made you choose the Marines?
Big thing with them is they got a rich history. They got rich traditions as well. They also have like that refusal to like lose sort of mindset. They always have, and you see it in their like recruiting ads and everything on TV too. Um, I'm rolling my eyes because it's redundant for me, after like actually being in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say those are probably the big reasons, and this is gonna be a really stupid reason I'm gonna add on to it too. It just popped up in my head, but they also had the best uniforms too. So like the dress blues, they're just awesome. They look a lot better in my opinion than the other
Did you get the
branches.
sword?
So I was eligible to get the sword once I promoted to corporal. So
Okay.
there's two different swords. There's the Mameluke sword. That's the one that officers have. And then there's the NCO sword, which is what NCOs have. So corporal and above in the enlisted ranks. That's when you're eligible to get it. Um, I've used it on occasions. Mainly, the biggest thing that I can remember with the NCO sword is when you go through corporal's course, it's they call it like a PME. It's like a 2 week course, like a leadership course, basically, to be an effective NCO. And part of your training for a few days is actually sword manual. So you learn how to like do like present arms, which is kind of like the same thing as like a salute in a
Mm-hmm.
sense with like the sword. Learn how to march with the sword. There's a few other movements involved. I was never a big like drill like genius, so I don't really remember all the commands and whatnot just off the top of my head. Um, but they're cool. But no, I never actually bought one for myself. They were like a few $100s, and I was like, I think I can probably do something a little bit more fun with like $450. So I never bought it. Hindsight, I might end up getting one to like put in a shadow box, now that I'm out.
Right.
Um, but while I was in, I was like, "Nah, I don't really have any use for it."
Okay.
So yeah.
So when you went into the Marines, where did you actually go?
I got pretty lucky. Starting off, well, all right. So boot camp. If you're west of the Mississippi, they send you to San Diego for boot camp. East of Mississippi, you go to Paris Island, which is I believe that's in South Carolina if I remember correctly. So I did recruit training for 3 months over in San Diego. After that, you get like a 2 week break, or I think it's like 10 days actually. So once you're done with that, you end up shipping over to either MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, or ITB, which is Infantry Training Battalion. Totally depends on your MOS, and for the people who don't know what MOS is, that's just like what your job is in the military is what that is. With me being military police, I went to Marine Combat Training. It's basically like a abbreviated version of the Infantry Training Battalion. It's I think a month exactly on the dot of really just infantry training essentially. Because like in the Marine Corps, they say every Marine's a rifleman. So
Mm-hmm.
regardless, you could literally be flipping burgers in the chow hall, but they're gonna expect you to know how to pick up a rifle and fight. If it comes to that point. Um, So I was in California in Camp Pendleton for that month, and then to actually get at your question, I got stationed in Hawaii for my first 4 years over in Kaneohe Bay. It's on they call it like the main island of Oahu. It's like where Honolulu is in Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to 29 Palms, California. It's probably like the most hated Marine Corps base if like you're like in the Marine Corps.
Why is that?
It's in the middle of nowhere, basically, in the Mojave Desert. No one really wants to go there, just because of that reason, that it's out there in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. Summer is super hot. Winter's not horrible during the day, but then it gets freezing at nighttime. So, with there not being like a city closer than like an hour and a half away, and then just like the unforgiving environment.
You're not painting a good picture.
Yeah, I know I'm not. But what's crazy about me saying that though is I personally loved it out there. I thought it was awesome. It's totally like what you make of it out there, because what a lot of people like overlook when they get their orders out there is that Joshua Tree National Park is like 15 minutes away from the main gate.
Okay.
Maybe 20, but it's super close to the main gate. So if you're an outdoors person, like Joshua Tree is awesome. I wouldn't say it's the like sexiest national park in the world, but it is super beautiful. The hiking trails there are awesome. The mountains over there are sweet. So is like the wildlife as well.
Okay.
And if you're actually willing to like drive, there's Palm Springs, which is probably like an hour and a half away. 3 hours for San Diego, probably 2 hours for LA, 3 hours for Las Vegas if you're speeding, which I don't condone, by the way, but you go through the Mojave Preserve and there's like no one there, so you can push it a little bit to get there a little bit quicker.
A mile or two at most.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, it really isn't that bad of a place. A lot of people hate on it when they first get there, but then they realize that it's not that bad unless you're like infantry out there. Then you're gonna be out in the field training the entire time. You don't really get as much liberties as the rest of as what they call us pogues. I think that's abbreviation. Like the abbreviation is personnel other than grunts. Okay. So yeah, infantry they're referred to as grunts, and they call us pogues. It's more of like a derogatory term. I really don't care personally, but we definitely have a lot more free time than them because they're always doing training evolutions out there in the field. So they really get the brunt of the desert out there, and I think that's where most of the hate comes from. But no, I mean, aside from what I listed there, I really just thought it was a nice place. It's super quiet. You don't really get bothered at all. It's not like overwhelming, like full of people. As much as I loved Hawaii, that place was like so densely populated that like when you like go home for the day, like if you have like base housing or if you lived off base like I did once I became a sergeant, like I didn't really have very much space to decompress like the average person, because you can hear the families in each house to the left and right of you. You know, they're all I don't know what they're doing, but a big thing is like there's like just no quiet time. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And
it couldn't have been cheap living there.
Well, it depends on how you want to live. For me, I actually was making a lot of money and not paying very much once I got the housing allowance, because for me, once I became a sergeant, they gave me BAH, which is basic allowance for housing, at a single rate since I wasn't married, which doesn't happen very often. So I got very lucky. And I think they're giving me like $3,000 a month for housing allowance. I found like the cheapest place out in town ever, like $1,200, pretty expensive for a 1-bedroom studio. Mm-hmm. All utilities were included over there. That's like kind of the rare thing that you see in Hawaii compared to other places. But I was pocketing like $1,800 a month from staying over there. I'm not saying that's like, all right, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, you know, like you're allowed to do that with the housing allowance. So it's not like I was like committing fraud or breaking the law when I say that. But yeah, I mean, since I got a cheap place, like the rest of that housing allowance, you get to keep it. Okay. So I was like, you know what? This has a portable AC unit in it. It's got a kitchenette. It's got bathroom, It's got my bedroom. That's all I need. I'm used to living in the barracks. This is an upgrade because I'm not on base, surrounded by like 10,000 Marines. So I'll take it. And
Okay.
on top of that, I was getting a bunch of money on the side too.
Right on.
So yeah, no, I guess yeah, it is expensive, but if you're used to like having a minimalistic lifestyle over there, you can make really good money in the military and still live like a pretty comfortable life that way. Um, but to put things into perspective on that is over in California, I definitely didn't upgrade for housing. I was off base once again since I had BAH in Hawaii and moved over to Cali with like all my household goods. They basically just approved it. They're like, well, you brought a house here, so yeah, you're good. You can do it again. And I ended up getting a 3-bed, 2-bath in this town called Yucca Valley. It was like 40 minutes away from the base. There's just a lot more amenities in that town. That's why I did it. And the rent was $1,700 for that house. I had to pay for all the utilities on the side, but like that's a pretty big difference in terms of like pricing for cost of living. I get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $1,700 in Cali, in the middle of the desert, and then I'm 30 minutes away from the beach, and a little studio costs $1,200. So
Sounds
yeah,
like
it's
you're
still
getting
expensive.
the better deal in Hawaii.
Yeah, I would like to say so too. I definitely missed Hawaii the entire time I was in California as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, it does put into perspective the cost of living. The one thing I would mention on that though is you ain't gonna find another town in California for that affordable like housing since you're out there in the middle of the Mojave. Like I have friends that are stationed over in San Diego at the recruit depot as MPs. They have studios that literally cost every single dollar of their housing allowance because they get like 3,000 there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Studio costs like $3,000 in
That's
San
crazy.
Diego. Yeah,
That's just absolutely crazy.
yeah, I know, it's nuts.
Huh. So you mentioned you were an MP. What made
Uh-huh.
you choose to be an MP?
Uh, Without like diving too much into my dad's expertise because I don't want to like out him or nothing, but kind of following in my dad's footsteps in a sense because he does law enforcement. I just decided to one up him by doing it in the Marine Corps instead of the civilian life. So,
Okay.
so all jokes aside, but no, I definitely got that from my dad. I looked up to him a lot growing up. I thought what he was doing was like awesome for the community, public safety, all of the above. But it really just boiled down to him doing that. I guess I don't really have any other reason than that. I suppose now that I think about it.
So when you were going through your military training,
Mhm.
did you have to do any specialized training specifically for military police, or was
Yes.
that all included in like your basic AIT package?
So, how I mentioned MCT. Once you get done with the combat training, that's when you go to your MOS school. And I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for I think it was like 3.5 months.
Isn't that an army base?
It is. There's just a Marine Corps detachment on that base.
Okay.
So, with that being the Army base, that's where they do their military police training as well. It's just we're on a different area of the base, and since they have like all of the resources, because Army has a lot higher budget, since they have like all the resources for military police training, we just kind of come in, and I'm not gonna lie, we kind of mooch off them a little bit, to borrow that.
It's all
So
taxpayer dollars. Doesn't really matter.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's actually something that a lot of people don't notice with the Marine Corps, and I think even the Air Force was actually on that base too for the
Okay.
same exact thing. Um, if the Army has like a base and their specialized training for like that respective job, like MP or like let's say Seaburn for example,
What's that?
that would be like chemical, biological, radiological, and I'm probably already messing it up, like nuclear. Um, Basically, they'd be the ones that do like the stuff with like nerve gas, tear gas, all that, all of the above in that umbrella.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like if the Army has like that school at one of those bases, usually the other branches will follow suit and be like, yeah, we're gonna come to your base and utilize your resources
Okay.
and do the training. So yeah, that's the story of Fort Leonard Wood and why the Marines are there. We got a couple other schools there too, but that's for like motor transport and I think it's actually Seaburn is the other one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a 3 month long course. And it's not anything that's like, not like Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. Nothing like that. Nothing like the civilian world at all, to be quite honest with you. Um, One, we already went through boot camp, so there's no sense in screaming at us again. You already broke us down and built us back up, into Marines over there. So don't really have to deal with that there. It's kind of a gentleman's course, is what they call it. And then the big difference between like a civilian police academy and like the military police basic course is that in the military, a lot of basically everything's enforced under the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's basically like every single law that you and I abide by out here in the real world is what I'll
Mm-hmm.
call it, outside of the military. They have that under the UCMJ as well. It just gets enforced under that, because punishments are a little bit different in the military, in
I'm
a sense.
assuming a little bit more harshly.
Can be sometimes, which I'll definitely dig into at some point in this interview. Sometimes it can be just a slap on the wrist for something that should be getting punished like a lot more
Okay.
heavily, which we'll definitely get into that for sure, because there's plenty to talk about on that one. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to go like high and to the right, like there's still like the punishable like by like execution, in the military. Has that happened anytime recently? No, and it probably won't either. But that is under the UCMJ. I mean, you can get lined up by a firing squad and shot down. So, like I said, pretty far extreme. But then you can bring it all the way down to the lowest level where it's like negative counseling, or 6105 is what they call it, or at page 11. To explain that in a simpler term, it's basically like a spicy negative counseling, is what I'd call it. Um, it's basically like letter reprimand, and then it also puts like a promotion restriction on you. One of them does. I can't remember which one, but it's usually like a 6 month promotion restriction on that. I think it's pretty sure it's a 6105. Page 11
Okay.
is the same thing, just minus that. It's just like that one will actually stay on your record permanently. Um, I could be getting that wrong. So there's probably gonna be like a veteran that's gonna comment on the video and be like, "He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about." But I've been out of the game for a little bit now, so I'm a little bit rusty on my knowledge. But then you can work your way up to the NJP, which is Article 15, non-judicial punishment, and what that is this is typically what happens with almost every single person I ever apprehended, is what I'll call it, not arrest, for DUI. Um, Apprehend them for the DUI, take them back to the provost marshal's office, is what we call it. It's the same thing as like a police station. Give them their implied consent, observation time 20 minutes, have them, if they want to, if they consent, sign like for the consent to go through like the intoxilizer or whatever sort of system that they use, depending on what state you're at, because normally it has to be some sort of system approved by the state. But anyways, like the intoxilizer to do like the breath sample. Once you get that breath sample from them, like I'm gonna be real with you. I mean, you're pretty much screwed at that point. Like if it's above a .08, like you're pretty much cooked, is what they say nowadays. So once that breath sample gets through, that's like one of my enclosures. I close the case after I do that and put in the narratives and scan all the enclosures into our like operating system, like on the computer. Once that gets submitted from me, that goes up through the command. Once the operations chief, that's normally who it is that gives it the final approval, it gets forwarded over to whatever chain of command that Marine was that like I arrested. We'll do this, like for example, Lance Corporal Schmuckatelli with like 1-3. So once it's approved, that case gets sent over to the 1-3 battalion commander. He looks over everything. He's like, yeah, Schmuckatelli definitely is guilty of driving under the influence. And then they would pull this Marine and be like, here's your options. You can either take a non-judicial punishment, basically like a plea deal so you don't get a criminal charge, or if you want to fight it, you're going to go to a trial by court-martial, which is basically court like out in town for you and I, but
Mm-hmm.
UCMJ. Just sounds a little bit scarier with it called court-martial, I suppose. Um, I'd say 9 times out of 10, those Marines, they take the NJP. They don't want to have any sort of like record on them, especially when it's in the military, because if you lose in a court martial, that means you're probably gonna get a bad conduct discharge, depending on what you did, maybe even a dishonorable discharge, which basically screws you over for life. So most of the time, it's pretty stupid to try and fight it in a court martial. But when they do the NJP, they basically will read out like whatever this guy did. So for the DUI, they would basically, if you want my unfiltered opinion, they kind of embarrass the Marine. Like when they're like looking over everything, they'll roast him for a few minutes, and then typically they'll like take their rank away. So like if he's a sergeant, they'll bust him down to like a corporal, or a corporal down to lance corporal, sometimes even a PFC or a private, like starting all over again. So obviously if you lose your rank, you're losing your responsibilities, you're losing all of those pay raises that you got. And then on top of that, they'll restrict you to the barracks where you can't go anywhere except for stay in your barracks room and check in over at the battalion until like 8 p.m. And then you're expected to just go to bed and do it all over again for like 30 to 60 days. And then on top of them taking your rank and doing that, they will reduce your pay in half. So you already took that one pay cut. Now I would have to look at the pay chart, but when I was getting my paychecks as like a PFC in boot camp, I think it was like $750. So like, let's say if you got demoted to PFC, they're taking half of your PFC pay now. So you're getting, math for Marines, I don't know, we'll say like $350 now for the month. Not a pretty good predicament that you're in at that point. So it sucks, but it's a lot better than having that, permanent charge on your record. So that's typically what you would see out of like those DUIs. NJPs are usually what you stick with, and I guess I already tackled court martial. That's about the worst point that you can get in terms of like judicial like proceedings with it. Yeah.
Okay. So, you've talked about OWIs just a little bit. What were some of the other things as a military police officer? What were the typical things that you dealt with? Because I would have to think that your soldiers might at least try to be better behaved than the general public.
You'd be surprised. No offense to any of the Marines out there, but they all know we all work hard, we play hard, and it can get pretty wild on the weekends, that's for sure. Especially when it's payday weekend. That's when the liquor starts flowing like a river on those bases. But yeah, I mean, DUIs are pretty common for me, but that's because I was proactive about it. It depends on the MP. Some of them, they just like to sit in their car on their phone for like the entire shift, which is not what you should do if you're being public safety, being an MP. But I would say that drunken disorderly is very common, which goes hand in hand with DUIs. Domestics are very common in the military, not just the Marine Corps, but the military across the board. I guess it goes hand in hand with like drunken disorderly as well, but like malicious mischief, like people pulling fire alarms at the barracks thinking that it's funny. Assaults, there's plenty of assaults. Narcotics, surprisingly. You'd be surprised, yeah. Both the bases that I was on, there was always a drug problem. It got better, I would say like my last year over at 29 Palms in California. But when I first showed up, it was really bad. Probably some things that I shouldn't talk about, but I'm also in first civ div. I'm a civilian now, so I can speak unfiltered at this point for the most part. But there was definitely a couple MPs I didn't know about until after the fact, because I got sent to, well, I can't tell you the exact location on that one, but I went on a special assignment with NCIS like when I first got to California. So I didn't really know any of the Marines very well when I got there, and I only got to like really start to get to know them for like maybe 2 months until I went with NCIS for about half a year. And when I got back, there's a couple of these Marines. One of them got kicked out. One of them had just EAS'd, but they're like,
what's EAS?
End of active service. Like, He just got out on his own terms. Didn't get in trouble or nothing, which probably should have. But I heard that what some of the Marines in like my section that I was in charge of before I left, they told me they're like, yeah, he got kicked out for popping on the drug test for cocaine, and the other dude that got out was the one giving him the cocaine. I was like, so how'd this guy not get in trouble then? Oh, no one said anything. I was like, you're putting a really bad image on PMO, like in general, like the military police department. I'll just call it that for simpler terms. Like if you're out talking about this in public, like that's gonna give us all like a really bad
Right.
black eye. Um, and I'm trying to remember it entirely. It's a little bit foggy in my memory now, but that ended up getting out and didn't get charged, like he was definitely dealing drugs on the base, and he was an MP too. So I mean that is bad to go. That's horrible. Like just in general, even if it was a normal police department. Luckily, that didn't really like make airwaves while I was in. I don't think that I would. Like even if this podcast right now, like if this episode ended up blowing up, getting 1 million views, I don't think like anything would really happen to my old department necessarily. With us talking about it, but it was just insane. Like I had never really heard about that like happening, um, let alone it like being Marines. I suppose. I guess I don't really know where I'm going with it anymore, but needless to say, like drugs definitely a big problem in the
Okay.
military. There was another drug ring, which was coke in Hawaii as well. There's a couple MPs over there that got busted for it as well, but they weren't like dealing; they were just using, which is still bad if you're an MP, of course. But yeah, definitely not uncommon. But I'd say like aside from the narcotics, definitely domestics, any sort of crime involving alcohol, for sure. Um, the assaults, DUIs, I'd say those are probably like your big like five right there. I would say.
Did you ever have to deal with like mental health issues?
Oh yeah, 100%. With that said, yeah, I didn't put it under that branch since that was all like crimes, but I'd say like one of the most common like calls for service that you'll probably get is like suicidal ideations, suicide attempts, and also suicides. I've gone to probably more suicides than anybody should probably go to. Um, I I honestly couldn't even count how many I've gone to at this point. Um, but that is definitely a big problem in the military, and what you will actually start to notice too, like if you're to like I guess see through like my lens on it, after doing it for so many years, you start to notice a pattern with it. At least for the military. Most of the time, when you get these suicide attempts specifically, or like the actual suicides, it's usually right around the holidays. That's like universal for like any military installation. For 29 Palms, it happens like in the summer, and I would probably say the most common sense reason behind that is because it's like 110, 115 degrees out. They're totally isolated out there in the desert. They probably hate the place to begin with because of that. Um, and then add on like any other like personal life stressors that they have on top of that. Whatever work stressors that they have, you can build that up too. Um, and some of those people, unfortunately, they just can't hack it, you know. But I would say big time that you see that stuff is definitely during the holidays, and then um, I guess you'd have to like actually be involved in like the case or the call for service, but sometimes they'll do it like on like anniversaries, um, birthdays of like loved ones. I wouldn't say that they'll do it like on the birthday, but like right after, or like close to that time frame, I suppose. Um, so yeah, it's kind of hard to give you a full picture on it because there's so many different like levels that you can keep on digging and talking about on it. But I think the big thing is military is already just stressful alone in itself. Because you got to think like these guys, one, they don't really get paid that well. Two, they live in the barracks if you're enlisted personnel, and usually it is like the lower level enlisted. Those are most of the suicide attempts and suicides that I had seen. they live in like horrible living conditions. As much as I love the Marine Corps, I'm out them on that. The barracks are horrible most of the time. The like to go off on a tangent just for a second, like the barracks that I had in Hawaii, there's black mold in it. AC would always go out. On top of that, it's like I don't even know how old that building is. It's just bad, really bad. But yeah, horrible living conditions, not getting paid very well. You're far from loved ones, most of the time anyway. And then I'm not gonna say that it, like, definitely not anyone in particular when I say this, but like you already have all those that you're stacking up, but then imagine like if you have like bad leadership like in your unit. You already have all that stuff that you're dealing with your life, and then you have like we'll say like a corporal, a sergeant, a staff sergeant. I mean, you can keep on going up the totem, but like let's say this guy's like a total ass to you and just makes your life hell at work every single day. You can't escape it, you know, because you're having that horrible like toxic environment at work, and then you go back to a, lack of better words, shitty barracks room. Over in Hawaii, at least for here in Central Time, it's like a 5-hour difference, depending on daylight savings time. It's 4 to 5 hour difference. So you might get home from work and now your family or your girlfriend's already asleep, and you're just stuck there and you have to deal with it by yourself. So I guess like adding all that stuff in, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Like kind of painted a picture for it.
It does. So I guess that makes total sense, but I have 2 follow-up questions for that. If that is a known issue,
Yeah.
where are those mental health resources for those folks? And then kind of as follow-up along the same lines, if you guys as MPs are having to deal with those types of things. I know looking at local law enforcement, there are mental health resources available to them subsequent to finding that, finding people that have killed themselves, whatever.
Right.
Do you have mental health resources available?
Yes. And so does every other person in the Marine Corps. They have the same exact resources that we would actually have too. I'll give the Marine Corps a lot of credit to this too. There is a lot of resources for you. Probably with every military branch. It's just there's a really bad, like, I guess if you want to call it like a stigma, or like this presumption that like if you go seek out help, you're gonna get like your weapons cards taken away. Like you're no longer gonna be able to, like, we'll say at least for like an MP. Like let's say if I wanted to go and get like some sort of counseling for like anxiety, depression, PTSD from, you know, seeing Lance Corporal Thomas hanging from the ceiling like a week ago. Like if I wanted to go see someone from that, there's this misconception that you're gonna get like your gun taken away from you. So then you're not gonna be able to do your job.
So does that actually happen?
No,
Okay.
no. So yeah, that's like the big problem on why all these guys hold back, including myself too. I should have went and seen mental health like a long time ago when I was in Hawaii, probably like halfway through my contract over there, just after a bunch of the calls I've gone to, and then I would put a lot of pressure on myself too. Sometimes good pressure. Pressure can be good, but I'd put way too much on myself on top of the pressure that job already gives you. So I'd say like halfway through my tour in Hawaii, like I had noticed like a change like with myself, with like didn't really ever have anxiety before, except for maybe like a little bit of performance anxiety. But I noticed that I was starting to become a more anxious person. I didn't want to really do very much either. Like after I was done with work, like I'd like literally get off work after night shift, sleep for like 8 hours, 10 hours, and then I'm just sitting in my barracks room all night playing games. But like, not like a, no offense to any gamers out there, because I play games all the time, but I wasn't like playing games like a nerd where like I'm loving every second of like playing video games. You know, it's just like I'm doing this just to pass the time so I can go to bed again. So basically depression is like a good way of putting it.
Sounds clearly like depression.
Yeah. So it's like halfway through, like I was starting to, you know, see those signs, and like I had considered going, but then I was like, well, if I go, like, my gun's gonna get taken away from me. I'm not gonna be able to do my job. I might even get kicked out. They might think that like I mentally just can't hack it. So I guess I'm just gonna suck it up and just keep pushing. And that was like the dumbest thing I could have done, because there's probably like another 5 years after I started seeing those signs, and obviously it just kept on building up from there. So I can't imagine how it is for other people too. It's not, when I say all that stuff, it's not about me, but just to kind of paint an image for everybody in general when I mention that stuff. But it really sucks because at least for our command in Hawaii, they were like very about us like going and getting that help if we wanted it. But then you'd have these random people here and there, like not even part of the command. They're just other MPs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you do that, like you're gonna totally, shit can your career." Blah 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 blah. When they didn't even know what the fuck they're talking about the entire time.
Gotcha.
Sorry for my language, but it's just frustrating because there's a lot of people that probably could get that help, and then they hold back like I did because they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to get kicked out, and then on the discharge paper have it, say like, I don't know, PTSD or just have like some sort of bad label on there. So yeah, that's the biggest issue. There's just that stigma, and it's not just for MPs as well, but also like any combat arms as well. They probably all think the same exact thing. Okay. But what a lot of active duty service members don't even realize is like if you go over to like mental health, like the clinic, get yourself an appointment, it's like purely confidential. Like your command doesn't know about it.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, no one knows about it except for you, and if you decide to disclose that to your command. So yeah, I mean, I think that like almost every single MP should go, in my opinion, because I think it would be fair to say that like, I don't know, we're just gonna give like a ballpark number out there, like 90% of like law enforcement in general, they probably have some sort of like mental like health issue, after doing it for a certain amount of time. Same thing with military too.
I had interviewed both a former police officer and a firefighter, and both of them said that at least here in the state of Iowa, it's a requirement that they have to do it at least once a year, at least like, a check-in to make sure everything's all right. And both of them also actually said I probably should be doing it way more than that.
Yeah, definitely.
But they at least have that annual check-in that they're required as part of their job to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's it's absolutely necessary. Whether it's law enforcement or like the Marine Corps, I feel like a lot of like, if I'm like looking back at it, like most of us probably like, oh, that's lame. Like I don't need that, and like we just totally ignore the signs.
Yeah, it's easy to tough up.
Yeah, 100%. But then like once you're like by yourself and you think about it, it's like, damn, I probably should actually do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, aside from it being confidential, there's a couple other important things that are worth noting too. I'm trying to think. I'm kind of losing my train of focus here. No, I mean, I guess I'll just keep it simple for a second. It'll probably come back to me. But bottom line is like, for Marines or any service members, they definitely should go and get that mental health that they need. Even if they like just had the slightest like consideration of it, like they just need to go do it. I wish that they could erase that stigma that there's like this whole chance that you're going to get kicked out or you're going to get thrown into like a rubber room. Like none of that stuff is going to happen whatsoever. Obviously, depending on what you say, they might go about it like a different course of action. Like if you go in there and tell them like, yeah, I think about killing myself every single night, then yeah, they're probably going to take your gun away from you, but that's like common sense.
Which, yeah, that would make sense that they would do that.
Yeah, exactly. So they're doing that, for the best interest of you and everybody else around you. So like that's 100% common sense. But if you're going in there and telling them like, yeah, I've been anxious, I'm been in a depressed mood, or like I can't stop thinking about like whatever it is that I saw, they're gonna set you up with the proper resources. Okay. And it's not something where like they're just gonna shove a bottle of pills in front of your face. Because like, excuse me, when I went, I didn't like actually go until I think I had like 2 or 3 months left until like I had gotten medically separated. And I still wasn't even planning on going at that point, but my friends told me, they're like, "You're getting med sep, like you need to get everything documented." And I was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, you just did all your VA exams, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, if it's not documented, like they're not gonna believe you." I was like, "Whatever." So I'll go. I did, and that was another thing that made me hesitant. Now that I'm thinking about it, is like I thought they were just gonna give me like antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, which I don't want. Um, but what really gained my trust, aside from them, having it confidential, like I mentioned before, was they asked me like what they wanted to do, or like what I wanted to do for treatment. They're like, "Well, do you want to try medication? Do you want to just try counseling? Do you want to?" There's a few other options, but those are like the big two. And I was like, "I don't want any medication. Let's just do counseling. We'll see how it goes." Um, and I don't know. I just really appreciated that they actually allowed me to like go down that route, because I don't think that's even a military thing, but I think whenever you start talking about like therapists and psychologists, I think a lot of people and just like the general public just assume like, oh yeah, they're just gonna throw medicine at you and just say like, yep, this will help you. But no,
Yeah.
they actually like listened to like what I wanted and addressed the concerns that I had personally. So
Good.
I was super impressed about that. Honestly, I was more impressed with them than I was with like my primary care physicians over there at the clinic. No offense to them,
Right. Right.
um, but no, it was a really good experience I had with them, and um, it like kind of gave me like a better like outlook on like how to handle a lot of that stuff that I had been going through, and I speak on behalf of like everyone else in the military too. Like they just, to keep it simple, like they can kind of like give you like a better insight on like how to navigate whatever is that you have like going on, whether it's anxiety, depression, like give you better coping mechanisms than staying at your barracks room on the weekend drinking like a 24 rack of Budweiser, like a lot of Marines do.
Yeah.
So I'm making a joke out of it, but like honestly, that's how it is. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those
Because
guys.
the 24 pack's clearly like number three in order of things that you want to do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned medical discharge.
Yeah.
Uh, is that something that you'd want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Any of my friends that know me from the Marine Corps, they know that I'm basically a glass house. Like I cannot stay healthy to save my life. And when I say that, it's because I'll just start off where like the root problems caused. Like two weeks into Hawaii, I was about to go in the gym and do PT, but there is an NCO. This guy like totally sucked. Um, And he's like, "Nah, we're gonna play football instead." I was like, "Whatever, man." So we're all playing football. It's two-hand touch too, so like none of us are like throwing each other around. But I caught a ball. I dove into the end zone. One of my buddies, I still talk to him here and there to this day. He got out way before me, but he tried to do like the two-hand touch while I was diving in the end zone. And when he did it, he like pushed onto my back. So when I'm diving in the end zone like this, I landed like that, where I put all the weight onto my shoulder, totally dislocated it, tore my labrum, had to get scope surgery. So that's my first problem. That's back in 2019. 2021, destroyed like the ligaments in my right foot. So I did PRP therapy for that. I don't think it really helped, to be honest. Um, I have flat feet to begin with as well. So those were like the two things that kept me on what's called limited duty. You can only have like a year's worth of limited duty your entire career until they refer you to a medical evaluation board. Um, so this bad boy took like basically all the time. My foot took pretty much anything that I had left, but I was able to write a pretty good non-medical assessment with my lieutenant. His name's Justin Freeman. He's in Bureau of Land Management. Shout out to that guy. Probably the best lieutenant I ever had. But him and I wrote up a non-medical assessment that got sent to Headquarters Marine Corps. We told him like, yep, nope, like I'm good to go. Like I'm about to get off limited duty. Just had my last treatment and we're gonna test the waters. They approved it, so I was still fine. Fast forward to 2023, get to California, run my combat fitness test, which consists of 880 sprint right at the very beginning. That's what you start off with. So starting off with a pretty good one. I got like probably halfway into that 880, and I like felt like I couldn't even breathe. Like I started wheezing. I was coughing uncontrollably. I tasted like blood in the back of my throat too, and um, those were like the main symptoms that I can think about. There's a few other ones, like I had a sharp pain in my chest too. I honestly thought like I thought I was gonna die for a second, but I finished the 880. I was like basically like doing like a death jog for that last like quarter mile, but I got across the finish line and I was still coughing, wheezing, tasted the blood in the back of my throat. Each time I took like an inhale, I had that sharp pain in my chest, and that was going on for like 30 minutes. And one of the guys that was part of the training department, like in PMO, he's asking, he's like, "You want me to call like an ambulance, or you want me to take you to the hospital?" Like, no, I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. I think like I did that for like another 10 minutes, and it finally like let up a little bit, where I could actually like talk and somewhat breathe without like having difficulty. And he's like, "All right, well, you ready for the ammo can list?" I was like, "No, I'm doing this another day." Um, but that's when I like had an issue that I totally like kind of like blew off, I guess. I thought it was just because of the environment out there in the desert with the high elevation, it's dry and whatnot. Um, I ended up getting sent to a different location with NCIS. Tried to run that same test again. Had the same issue. I was actually able to finish the test there though. Um, but I ended up like puking up like a little bit of blood like after that test, and that's when I realized like, yeah, I need to go to the doctor because there's like actually something wrong with me. So I guess you could say that was kind of like the beginning of the end, to get me medically separated, I suppose. Um, but it was a really frustrating process that I'll tell you about with it because all of that happened in 2023. I just got out a month ago, September 15th, 2025. So I was dealing with it from like I don't know, it was like mid or late 2023 until finally like a month ago that I had to do that whole entire process. Um, so they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me for the longest time. The physician I had when I was out there with NCIS, he told me, he was like, "You have exercise-induced asthma and you have GERD." GERD, that's a fact. Like I'm diagnosed with that 100%. And technically he diagnosed me with exercise-induced asthma too, which I do believe him. Um, he prescribed me an inhaler and a steroid inhaler out there, and I was actually starting to get some improvement towards the end. But then once I got back to California, inhalers didn't work any longer. And I told my physician over there too, and they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to go like cardiologist and the pulmonologist." I had to wait like 3 months to finally go to the cardiologist. Everything was fine with my heart. And I had to wait like another 3 months to go to the pulmonologist because military medicine sucks. We'll just put it that way. Like you just have to wait forever whenever you have to like go see a specialist, at least out there in 29 Palms, because they don't have them there. So you have to go over to Naval Medical Center or like Naval Hospital Balboa, which is in San Diego. So over in San Diego, that's like basically like a hub for the military. You got Coronado where the SEALs train over there. You got Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego over there. You got the naval station over there. You have Miramar, which is another Marine Corps base, air station technically. So all of those people have priority over you that lives like 3 hours away in the desert, So it just takes forever to get into those appointments. So it became like almost a year on the dot until they finally found out what was wrong with me, because cardiologist, like I said, "You're good." Pulmonologist, he didn't say that I was lying necessarily, but he was like, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with your lungs. You don't have asthma." I was like, how did a doctor tell me somewhere else that I have it, and then now you're telling me that I don't? I was like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And he's like, "Well, you passed I think it's called like a methacholine or something like that challenge test." I guess like with that chemical, when you breathe it in, if you end up having trouble like at a certain stage with it, it's a pretty good indicator that you can have exercise-induced asthma. I did my own research. That is true. However, you can still pass that test and have exercise-induced asthma. And you're probably gonna have a lot better like accuracy in results if you actually do like a physical stress test. Like
Okay.
that's how you're gonna know that someone has exercise-induced asthma, because if they're like running, like in my situation, that's when it affects me. Um, their throat's gonna tighten up. So this guy basically was like saying that I was a liar without telling me I was a liar. And so him and I kind of got into an arguing match there, and I told him, I was like, all right, well, I want a second opinion then. And he's like, are you sure you want that? And I was like, did I stutter? And he's like, well, if you do a second opinion with a civilian doctor, you're probably going to get kicked out. Is that what you want? And I was like, no, that's not what I want, but like I want someone that's competent, because I'm telling you that I want to do an exercise stress test that isn't the methacholine, so I can actually get the right treatment that I need, basically, is what I told him. Maybe a little bit more abrasive, but that's along the lines of what I was trying to tell him. And he's like, well, go ahead and do whatever you want to do then, man. And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't end up doing that because I went back to 29 Palms, saw my physician over there, and told her about the whole situation. And she's like, well, why don't we like refer you to a speech pathologist and make sure you don't have vocal cord dysfunction, because it mimics asthma. So that's what I did. Turns out I have vocal cord dysfunction. And then by the time that they finally got that diagnosis, because you got to think, I already said that was like a year on the dot by the time I saw the pulmonologist. It was probably like another couple months when I saw the speech pathologist. So I'm on limited duty when I shouldn't even be on limited duty. I already used up all that time with the other issues I told you. So it's like right when I was starting to finally get some improvement with like speech therapy, that's when headquarters Marine Corps was like, time to send your non-medical assessment. Let's see if we can get you back to full duty. And so I did one, and honestly at that point, like I was kind of like discouraged with like Navy medicine, military medicine, and just kind of the way that they ran me through the ringer, to be quite honest with you. I had some great doctors, so I'm not totally like dumping on every single one of them. But at that point, like I told my command that like, yes, on that first one, like I want to stay in, I want to push through this. I just need a little bit more time. And I didn't hear anything back from headquarters Marine Corps for a while, probably like a month and a half. So I was like, it looks like I'm good. They gave me a little bit more time, to recover. And then I think it was like March or April of this year. That's when they hit me back, and they're like, yeah, no, like you're going on a med board. Like you need to have so the medical evaluation board is basically like the doctors like at the hospital, like on your base, they basically review like your all of your medical paperwork, and then they make the determination on if you should go back to full duty, and if you're not fit to go to full duty, they'll refer you to the PEB, which is the physical evaluation board, which is like a whole board that convenes over in Washington, D.C. over your medical paperwork. And they go off of like your personal impact statement, what your attorney provides them, and also what the hospital wrote on you. Because if they're saying that you need to go to the PEB, they're going to list the reasons why. And mine was just kind of weird though with the med board, because like they wrote like a lot of great things on the med board piece, but they still referred me to the PEB, and I think it was more of because I wanted to at that point.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, like I did want to just look out for myself and my body and just get medically separated, which I'll go into that in a second, but I'll keep on explaining that. But once it goes to PB, they review everything, and then from that point, they either find you fit for service, or if you should get medically separated or medically retired. While you're doing all that, the VA also comes into the equation too. If you do the IDES like process is what I'll call it. It's like integrated disability evaluation system. It's where the VA they'll step in, and you can do like your like disability claim with them while you're still in active service on the med board. It works better that way. Like you already have like everything they're gonna be claiming right there on the spot. Why not do it while you're still in going through like medical process with the military? than like getting out and then having to get all of your medical records sent to you and then putting it in. It's just easier that way. So while the PEB was convening, figuring out what they want to do with me, I was doing all my VA claims. And then, like I was saying before we started, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks. It was like 4 weeks before I got out. That's when I had found out that they made the decision that I was medically unfit and I was gonna be getting medically separated, but they still didn't have a date for me. And then the next week, which it was a total train wreck for me personally. But like at the end of the next week, that's when I got like my exit date for September 15th. It was literally like the day before I'm going to Mexico for like 5 days. So I'm like, well, I had 3 weeks to get ready to get out, and now I have like 10 days to get ready to get out because I'm going to be out of country for, almost an entire week. Yeah. So that was like just a total disaster. I still had fun when I went to Mexico for the vacation and
but
going.
It definitely puts a black cloud over it.
Yeah, I was gonna say my anxiety was definitely elevated on that for sure. And it caused some like unneeded drama, I guess I would say, while I was on vacation, because I was there with the girl that I'm seeing, which I'm not gonna out her right here in public on the show, but I definitely made an ass of myself a couple times, and it was really just because of like me kind of just being in that bad mindset, freaking out that like I need to get ready to get out, but here I am sipping margaritas on the beach, Mm-hmm. So I feel bad about it, like in respect to her and also her friends out there that we saw get married and whatnot, but it ended up being a really good time regardless. But I do kind of regret that I ended up, kind of being in that mindset out there. But yeah, no, that's how the whole like med board and PEB went for me. They did the medical separation, not the retirement, because in order to do the retirement, you need to have 30% of a DOD rating for disability. I got 0% on the DOD side, because they referred me for vocal cord dysfunction. Usually with vocal cord dysfunction, you can make a full recovery from that. It just takes time and effort with speech therapy and making sure that you're doing like proper diaphragm breathing and you're doing all of your techniques, whether that's like laryngeal massages and stretches, even doing shoulder rolls. There's different like vocal techniques, which I'm not going to do here on the show because I'll look like a clown, but you do like voice trills, stuff like that. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, you probably know a lot about it too with being a musician, yeah. Some of that stuff. Yeah, that's why they gave me the 0%, but I mean, it still worked out for me regardless. I would rather have taken the medical separation anyway, because the way that I saw it was like, if they separate me and not retire me, I'll get the severance check. That'll, land me on my feet where I'll be fine until I get hired with a federal agency, and I'll have the VA disability backing me up.
That's what I was going to ask next. So now that you're out of the military, what is next for you?
Yeah, right now it's a little bit complicated just because of the political atmosphere with government shutdown, federal hiring freeze, and whatever else is going on with them.
Not a good time at all for you to get medically separated.
No, well, yes and no.
At least going into federal work.
Yes, correct. I was going to say I don't envy my friends right now that aren't getting paid. I feel horrible for them, but I'm glad that I got out before that part happened. But yeah, it's really made it kind of complicated right now for trying to get into a federal agency. When I did my work with NCIS, I did like executive protection with them. They kind of have their own branch that's like Secret Service. It's called POFO, Protective Operations Field Office. So that's what I did with them.
That might arguably be the worst acronym ever.
Oh, POFO. Yeah, it's a little bit goofy. But that's what I did with them, and I was able to build like really good networks while I was doing that, and I expanded that network with NCIS afterwards. Like when I went back to California, I was a SWAT team commander. We call it SRT, which is Special Reaction Team. Same thing. but I invited NCIS out there along to shoot at our ranges, like the SRT ranges. We did some joint operations with them in CID too. Um, so with all those networks built up, once it was getting close to me getting out, um, I reached out to some of my old colleagues that I worked with the Protective Operations Field Office about seeing if I could get on, through a direct hire authority is what they call it. It's basically where like you send them your resume still, but you don't have to go through the entire hiring process like everyone else does. And it's not necessarily just about the fact that like I had the networks, definitely a big piece of it, but it's also because I have like the proven expertise that I can do that job. I already did it as a Marine, and then also I have all these other certifications and qualifications: Special Reaction Team Commander, Combat Marksmanship Trainer, and Coach. Military police experience as well. So um, everything was looking good. I talked to people that were higher up in NCIS, and they're like, "You're our guy. We'll definitely take you. It's just right now the federal hiring freeze is holding us back." And they're like, "By October, though, I think it would be like a realistic like expectation that we can go ahead and hit the ground running." I was like,
Cool.
"Sweet." Um, and then I was heading home. Like I think, what's the date today? Like the 22nd, I think.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, like almost exactly like 8 or 9 days ago. That's when I started driving home. And before I hit the road, I emailed one of the bosses, and it was just like, "Hey, just following up, per our last, phone call. You said you'd hit me up once you have more details." Um, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, like, we can't, we can't right now. Like, we don't have any way of hiring you right now because of hiring freeze, government shutdown, et cetera, et cetera." So he's like, "I will be in touch once the position opens up, but like we just can't do anything for you right now." I was like, "No worries, I get it. But it's not anything that like I'm panicking about necessarily. I would like to think about it optimistically that by the new year, I definitely hope by the new year that the government isn't shut down anymore. But
Everybody hopes.
yeah, I would like to see that, be over with like within like days at this point, because I never would have thought that it would have, gone on this long. But hopefully by the new year, that stuff is over with. Federal hiring freeze should be over with by then too. There's the whole thing with like law enforcement, federal law enforcement right now. That's kind of like weird. Because to add on to everything that I told you, it's kind of hard to get into FLETC right now, which is a federal law enforcement training center. Majority of their courses are over in Glencoe, Georgia. Um, ICE basically has like full priority right now. Like, I'm sure that there is other agencies there that are training, but I think like moving forward, like we'll just use like National Park Police for example. Like, if they're in the middle of their academy right now, they're fine. But like, let's say they graduate in 2 weeks, like there ain't gonna be like any other National Park Police classes opening up until probably the beginning of next year, maybe after the end of the first quarter next year, because like all they want to push through right now is like DHS, so like ICE, CBP. There's another one that's in there too. I can't remember. I mean, those are the big two. Like HSI, ICE, CBP. They all have like the prio to go through the academy right now. Because of their whole hiring surge. I think they're trying to get like 10,000 ICE agents by the end of the year or something like that. Yeah. So it kind of screws everyone else, that's trying to do federal law enforcement but with a different agency.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be ICE.
No.
So,
no.
I don't have any desire to be an ICE agent. I don't really know anyone that really does, to be honest with you. Not to throw any sort of like politics into it when I say that, but like on top of like whatever your opinion is on ICE or like the whole situation right now, it's like that's just a horrible job to have to begin with,
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I see, depending on how the pendulum swings in the next election, some of those officers might be out of a job anyway.
Oh yeah.
So
100%.
So yeah, that to me would be a temporary job at best.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's something about the Marines that people don't know about that you think they should know about?
Um, that's actually a really good question. Let's see here. I feel like Marines honestly kind of make themselves an open book if you're in like the local area of where Marines are. So I'm trying to think of something that would probably like pertain more to honestly like Ottumwa, Iowa, where there's not really very many Marines at all. Well, I mean, I could stick with the cliche. There's no better friend, no worse enemy. That's like a very famous quote for Marines. But I would say that the most important thing to mention about it is like if you got a friend that's a Marine, they're gonna be there for you like no matter what. And it really just goes with like all the crap that we've like gone through, regardless of your job or whatever it is. It's just like the Marine Corps is like the ultimate like brotherhood. And Army and Army, Navy, Air Force, like yeah, they're cool, whatever. But they just don't. No offense to all my friends in those other branches, but like they just don't kind of like click as tight as we do. Um, I would literally I would do anything for any of my friends that served in the Marine Corps, and also the friends that I've grown up with too. I'd go through hell and back for every single one of them. It's because of joining the Marine Corps and all the experiences I've had, for better or for worse, that made me that way.
Okay.
Like I just have I probably care more than I'd have to at times. Like I probably shouldn't like put in as much effort that I do for some people. Um,
We
but
all have that.
yeah, yeah, I would definitely, yeah, I would definitely say that for sure. But that's just how I'm wired now. Like I take care of if it's someone that like something to me, whether it's normal friend, girlfriend, whatever. Like I'm gonna do absolutely everything I can for that person. That's just how I am now after being in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And I would say that yeah, every single Marine is probably like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, less serious.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a podcast the other day with Jocko. I'm sure you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking very specifically about the bulldog who is the mascot for the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
What's that dog's name? It's escaping me for some reason.
Well, so with the actual bulldogs that they'll be like walking around like on the parade decks and stuff, they usually name them after like Smedley Butler, Dan Daly, which are like Medal of Honor recipients from way back in the day.
Yeah, those are not the names that he used. So it was one
but
specific name.
well, so I mean they with the mascot and whatnot, like they call Marines like devil dogs. But then if you want to keep on going down the rabbit hole, we also got called like Teufelhunden. So maybe that's what he referred to.
Yeah, it was some dude. I think his name was Sammy Davis or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But he had a nickname, and that's what they called the bulldog.
I'm trying to think, to be honest with
Dang
you.
it, I can't remember. Anyway,
I'm not
the
sure.
point is, I'm screwing this story up because I can't remember it. But he said during basic training,
Mm-hmm.
the Marines would always say good night to this dog.
Oh,
Is
it's
that
probably
true?
Chesty.
Chesty, thank you.
Yeah, Chesty Polar. Yeah, they do have a bulldog named after Chesty Polar. So he actually was a Marine Corps officer. I think he's got like 5 Navy Crosses decorated when he was in. He was in during like the Korean War. I don't remember what his final rank was, but he was pretty far up the brass. But he's just like he's a legend like in the Marine Corps. Just because of like his leadership during the Korean War and also before that as well. He's just super like revered or however you say it. Sorry, my vocabulary is not the greatest right now, but that's where that comes from. Is
Okay.
Chesty Polar. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that does happen at boot camp
I was
too.
always curious after I had heard that, and clearly it has not been recently that I heard this because I butchered the name completely. But yeah, I had heard that, and I'm like, I wonder if that's legit, whether they actually do that or not.
Yeah, we did it at boot camp. It depends on like your drill instructors as well. They'll have you do like different. Oh man, this is gonna be awkward when I say it. I'm not talking about Sean Combs when I say this, but they'll have you say like different ditties is what we call them. But sometimes you'll be lucky enough where you'll have that group of drill instructors where like once it's lights out and you're like over at Camp Pendleton, so you're towards the end of your training, they'll tell you to like say goodnight Chesty wherever you are. And then there's other stuff too, like Some of them is just to like remember like what the movement and your steps are during like when you're doing your drill and whatnot. But that one is a pretty popular saying. That and they'll do other pretty cool ones too. Usually like when you're doing like your open and close ranks and stuff like that. But I'd say that's probably been the one that's like stuck around the longest though.
Okay.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Cool.
I think the only thing that like I could really leave it off with is kind of like what we were mentioning earlier. Like for any military member that ends up watching this podcast, like if you're going through something, definitely not alone, and don't be afraid to like reach out for the help if you need it.
Hey everybody, I just want to thank you so much for watching my video. If you find these videos inspiring, if you like hearing the stories of everybody that we bring onto the show, please go to the page, like and subscribe, and share it with all of your friends. It would mean so much to me and all of the future people that we'll have on the show. So again, please go to the YouTube page, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.